The Service Intelligence in Microsoft Dynamics 365 for Customer Service course will provide insight on managing case-related correspondence, documents, contacts, and activities within Microsoft Dynamics 365. The feature discussed in this course provides your team with actionable insights, including the use of knowledge management in the central management database, managing cases and communications with customers in a centralized location, developing goals and measurable metrics for customer service representatives, and various tools to provide service-based analytics. For this course, some of the objectives include to create knowledge-based articles and effectively search for and manage them in the knowledge management system in the Interactive Service Hub, to explore the features of the Interactive Service Hub, and to use various analytic tools to provide insights and learn what they can do to further improve customer service. A knowledge base is a collection of articles with one or more headers and is searchable by keyword, header text, title, subject, and full text search. With the knowledge base, you can manage the distribution of product and service information for a business unit. Answers to user questions can also be stored in the knowledge base. The knowledge base architecture consists of a repository that makes it possible to link questions to various types of context, such as documents, articles, graphics, and have them as being document indexes. In this module, the objectives are to search for articles within the knowledge base and associate them with a case, to resolve cases quickly by using the knowledge base articles, to create, manage, and maintain knowledge base article templates, to examine the process for creating, modifying, and publishing knowledge base articles, to develop how to properly format knowledge base articles through a template and through the Engagement Hub, and also to demonstrate how to attach knowledge base articles to emails. All knowledge base articles are based on article templates to provide structure and determine how the article is displayed. When you create a knowledge base article, you have to associate it to a template and a subject. A knowledge base template describes formatting and the sections that are used in the article. Subjects are used to organize the articles by categories. By default, the customer service module contains 4 templates on which articles can be based: procedures, questions and answers, solutions to a problem, and then standard KB articles. Each of these default templates above refers to a specific style of an article, whether it's a simple question and answer or specific multiple-step procedures. It's important to know that these built-in templates can be modified and additional templates can be created as needed. When creating article templates, consider the following. One of the first things to keep in mind is information presentation. A key benefit of having a knowledge-based template is that they enable the consistent presentation of information for knowledge-based articles. Another important aspect of working with article templates are the sectioned or the tiled sections. When designing a template, templates are made up of tiled sections that indicate where text will be positioned when the article is created. The next element of a knowledge-based article template are descriptions. Descriptions. Each tiled section provides a description box where the template author can enter instructions for the users creating articles. The instructions serve as a reminder for the type of information to enter in each section. New knowledge-based articles can only be created using a template with the status of active. After the article template is created, it can either be deactivated or deleted. So an article template can be deleted. However, an article template can only be deleted if there are no articles currently based off of that template. When deactivating a template, new articles cannot be created based on it, and previous published articles will not be impacted by the deactivation. So if you think about a scenario, you do not want any more knowledge-based articles created from a certain outdated template. However, You also don't want anything to impact the search results for existing articles that have been associated with that template. What do? You deactivate it and it's done.
All right, so we're back in Dynamics 365, and to be able to go through and take a look at how article templates are created, we're going to navigate to the Settings section. So we're going to go to our Module Selector, and we're going to choose Settings. Now from here, we have a couple of options as to where we can go to create new article templates. From Settings, we can go to Service Management, where many of the other configurations to go in and set up some of the components within the Customer Service module are found, such as our service level agreements, our entitlements, queues, routing rule sets, and so on. But if I continue to scroll down, you'll notice I have a section here for all of my templates. So from here, I can go in and be able to create all of my KB article templates within my service management section of the settings. The other option, though, is right from settings as well. I can also just go in and choose templates. And then from here, you'll see that I have the option of not only going in and working on the service-based templates, but any of the other templates that we might want to look at. Again, when I click on article templates, you'll see it will take me to my article template view. Within this list, you'll see, as we discussed, that we have a predefined set of templates already created for us, dealing with how to set up different procedures, questions and answers such as frequently asked questions, steps for solutions to a problem, and then even standard KB articles. But let's say that we want to go in and we want to create a new one. So you'll see up in my title bar that I actually have multiple icons or actions that I can take. And I want to go ahead and click on the New action. When I click on the New action, you'll see it brings up my article template properties and where I can go in and now build a new KB article template. So first thing I want to do is I want to give it a name or a title. Now the title is really important because it's going to, just by looking at that title, and when users want to create a new KB article, I want to know, or they need to be able to know what kind of information is going to be stored in that article, again, based on that template. So let's say I want to do this as being training documentation. And then not only that, but also I want to give it a description so that, again, they get a better understand about what information is going to be stored or what information or what the layout's going to look like for this particular template. So I might just say, use this template or use to create new training documentation with detailed steps. And then you'll also see that I can choose a language. So again, if you're in a multilingual environment, you have the ability to be able to create templates for different languages. So I might want to have a training documentation template for English, another one for Spanish, and let's say another one for French. So I can literally have 3 different languages for the same type of article template as necessary. So once I give it my title and my description, I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Once I click OK, you'll see it now takes me to my template form. From here, by default, I'm automatically have available my article title. Now your article title, again, is going to look like whatever we called it when we created that template. If I want to go in and look at that, or let's say I decide I want to change it, you'll see that we actually have a common task pane over on the right-hand side, and I could go in and do some different configurations based on this template. One of the things I can do is I can click on Template Properties, and you'll see it pulls up that same dialog box that we were in when we first told it to be able to create the new template. The other thing that we can also do is we can now create new sections. So for example, if I have my article and then my article number that is going to be defaulted for this template, say I want to be able to have a section to be able to give objectives. So I might put in here, training objectives. And then what I want to be able to do is in the instructions is I want to be able to, again, for any users that are going to be writing or building KB articles off of this, provide some guidance on what kind of information should show up in the body of this section. So I might put on here, enter the title and objectives for the topics that will be covered for the training documentation. Once I select OK, you'll now see it adds that new section to my template. Now, if I want to go ahead and create another one, let's say I want to have one that has the detailed steps. So I might put on here training detailed steps. And again, I can now provide additional instructions. And then once I have those instructions, and again, you can be as clear as you need to be when you're going in and creating these instructions. But once I have those instructions, again, I can click OK. And I'm going to add one more section. And let's say I want to go ahead and clarify, well, when we're doing this training, what products are supported? So again, I might say, identify which products are supported with this training documentation. And again, I'm going to click OK. So once I actually have the different sections broken out, and I can have as many sections as necessary for the template that we might want to have available within our actual article. You'll also see that, again, let's say that I created this and I was like, well, I really want to have that at the very top versus at the bottom, because I want to make sure that the first thing that they do is define, okay, well, what products are supported by executing these steps. So again, you'll see within my common tasks, I have the ability to go in and rearrange the sections as necessary. Now, being able to go through and make modifications to the templates, of course, we don't have any articles that we created off this template yet because we're just now creating the template. But one of the things that we need to take in consideration is, as we go through and we make changes to the template, if we have existing articles that are based on that template and we make changes to the template itself, it will try to roll down those changes to any of those existing articles. So for example, let's say that I decide that I don't want to have the section for products supported. You'll notice that again, I can highlight that section, click on remove a section, and from here, you'll notice that I do get a message saying, if you remove a section from the template, you remove that section and any content from any unpublished articles that use this template. So here's what we're talking about, that if we have any unpublished, so keep in mind, something that we have not published will have effect, or the removal of this section will have an effect on those articles. For now, I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now, the other thing that you'll notice is that, again, when I actually have these sections, we have my section titles or my section headings, but then also you'll notice as I hover over each one of these, I can now see what the instructions are that I've typed when I created that section. So this is really nice to make sure that, we're very clear in our instructions. And then what's also nice about this is, for example, if I realize that I misspelled something, I can easily select one of the sections, click on section property, and when I click on the section properties, I can now go through and I can revise the title, or I can revise any of the instructions. So if I realize that as I'm looking through or reviewing any articles that are created off this template, and it's not quite defined as to what I would expect it to be for a training document, I can provide a little bit more detailed instructions to set those expectations when any new articles are created. Now, the last thing that you'll see that we can also do is we can now do some formatting to our actual template. Because again, the goal of using the templates is to provide a consistent, standardized environment for creating new KB articles. So you notice when I look in my command bar, I have some formatting options that are available. But you'll also notice the first thing I have is a drop-down list that allows me to choose which part of the article template do I want to go in and modify. So for example, If I go in and choose title, it's now going to go through and allow me to adjust my article title. So let's say I want to have that underlined, or let's say I want to make it Tahoma. So you'll notice I actually have multiple icons here with our standard formatting of bold, italicized, underlined. And then I can also do some revisions with my fonts, such as choosing a different font size, as well as a different font color. So let's say that the size, I want to make that a little bit bigger. I want it italicized, and I want to be able to go through, again, make sure it's Tahoma, and I also want to change the color of it. So once I've gone through, you'll notice the only thing that is being affected by these changes is my title. So now if I want to go through and do the same thing, I can now choose section heading. And when I choose section heading, it will now do it for each section, not just one section selected. So it doesn't matter which section I have selected, but now if I make a change, so let's say I also want to have those section headings italicized, you'll notice it changes all of the section headings. So same thing if I go in, I change Tahoma, change my font to Tahoma, and let's also say that not only do I want it to be Tahoma and italicized, but I do want to make it a little bit larger. So we'll make it 12 points. And then the color itself is pretty consistent, but we're just going to make sure it's the same color. So as I go through and I make these changes, again, the goal of this is to be able to have that consistent environment. So I might also want to go to my body text, and in my body text, which is going to be this part down here where it says use the style buttons to change the default text, is as I'm making these, it is dynamically going through and showing me what those changes will look like within my template. So again, for consistency's sake, we also want to use Tahoma. And let's say I want to make that 12 points. So you'll notice, again, it's not just one section that's affected, it'll affect all sections. So I decide that's a little too big, so I'm going to take that back down to 10 points. And then again, if I wanted to, I could even go through and change the color as necessary. So once we have these all set up and we're now done with this template, you'll see that we have several save options. We can simply just save it. So if it's a larger template that I'm creating, I can save it to make sure I'm saving all my changes. I can save and close it, or if there are multiple templates that I want to create all at one time, I can do a save and new. So for us, we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on save and close. So once I've now added this new template, you'll now see it's available in my list. And just like with the other record types that we have within the system, I have various system views that are available for me to help better manage the existing templates that I have in my environment. You'll see I have not only my active templates, but I could go through and look at all my article templates, or I could go through and look at it based on different languages, or I have even inactive templates as necessary. So if we're going through, and again, as one of the things that we discussed, is if I want to, for whatever reason, I want to be able to go through and I want to make some changes, or I don't want to use that training documentation template, or I don't want the users to be able to have access to that template. I can actually select the template within my list, go up to More Actions, and choose Deactivate. You'll notice it gives me my confirmation saying, are you sure you want to do this? And you'll notice it even says, once I do this, I can reactivate it later. So if I want to make changes to this for whatever reason, I can deactivate it. And then if I switch over to my inactive article templates, you'll now see it's in that list. If I then decide that I do want to go ahead, I've made some revisions, I want to make it available to use again, I can go back under my More Actions. I can choose Activate. And once I choose Activate, it will now be in my active article templates. And by default, only active article templates are going to be available when a user chooses to create a new article based on a template. So again, the goal of creating an article template is not necessarily to be able to create a new article itself, but to be able to provide a standardized, formatted document that users can then create new articles from within Microsoft Dynamics 365.
As we've learned, a knowledge-based template describes formatting and the sections that are used within the knowledge-based article. However, once the template is chosen, there are sections contained within the actual article, such as the title, description, actual content within the article, and any key words that might be used to search for the article. Similar to other entities in the service module, such as the case-to-resolution process, there's a process in place for knowledge-based articles as well. On each article, there's a status bar that explains the past, present, and forthcoming steps involved in the knowledge-based article process. These include author, review, update, review after the update, and publish. We'll discuss this process in more detail in an upcoming lesson. Aside from creating and formatting new knowledge-based articles from templates, within the Dynamics 365 service module, we also have the ability to create articles directly from the Microsoft Engagement Hub. Similar to creating articles based off of templates, you'll still see a chevron status bar at the top of the page explaining the knowledge-based article process. Some of the available options when creating a new knowledge-based article from the Engagement Hub includes major version number, minor version number, title, keywords, description, and content. The content section for the new knowledge-based article features a rich text editor format experience, which provides users with the ability to edit font, add tables, and even incorporate graphics directly into the article editor. Some of the great features available include the ability to format the font type, adjust the font size for each word, and edit the style. Additionally, users are able to add bulleted or numbered lists and paste data directly from Microsoft Word. The most impressive formatting available, though, would be the ability to add tables, images, and links. This could be extremely useful if someone needs to write a how-to article with pictures for each step on how to resolve the issue. Because knowledge-based articles are shared, most organizations want to ensure the quality and accuracy of the contents within the articles. Within Microsoft Dynamics 365 Service Module, a built-in work process is used to create knowledge-based articles. An article experiences the following stages. When an article is first saved, it has a status of draft. Draft articles can be edited and then be submitted for approval. When an article is submitted for approval, it has a status of unapproved. Unapproved articles can be edited and upon review can either be rejected or approved. An unpublished article contains the format settings from a template. If you change a template format, the changes are automatically propagated to an article into the draft and unapproved process. If an unapproved article is rejected, its status is changed back to draft and the process starts all over again. If the article is approved, its status changed to published and it's visible to the whole organization.
Okay, now that we've discussed as far as how to create article templates, let's go into the system and actually talk about how to create new KB articles within Microsoft Dynamics 365. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to stay in the service module. And where to go in and create actual articles, a little bit different than creating templates. For articles, under service, this is where we want to go into the collateral section and we want to click on articles. Once we click on articles, you'll see that we are now in our default article view. And by default, I'm looking at my draft articles. As we talked about, your articles can have different statuses based on its life cycle. So in taking a look at this, very similar to our templates, we actually have different system views to be able to filter down and better navigate for the existing articles that we have out there. So we can look at our draft articles, any published articles that we currently have, which you'll see right now we don't have any. If we have any unapproved articles meaning that they've been submitted but they have not been approved to be published yet, as well as unpublished articles. And you'll see as far as with your unpublished articles, it is more or less all of the ones that we have out there. So you'll see I've got 2 that are in draft articles, and then I've got 2 that are considered submitted but unapproved. You'll also notice that within our view, very similar to other record types, we have our command bar. And from our command bar, we've got multiple actions that we can take relating to our articles. So we want to go in and we want to create a new KB article. We're going to actually click on the new action or the new icon. And you'll see once we do, it's now going to ask us which template do we want to create this article from. And you'll also see that again, if we have multiple languages, we can filter down by the language. In this particular one, we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a new article based on our training template. And you'll notice that when I have that template highlighted, it gives me that description that we typed in when we created that template. I'm going to click OK. And once I click OK, you'll now see I'm now in my KB article form. And again, looking at some of the required fields, we actually do have to put in a title as well as a subject. So let's say on this title, we're going to call this one, say, Overview of Navigating Within Dynamics 365. And then, of course, with the subject, we haven't spent any time on building the subject trees, but this is also where, again, if we actually have different subjects that we want to be able to expand on, even though the subject tree is outside the scope of the course, you'll see that we can go through and we can actually expand on this depending on what type of subject matter we want to put this under. Now, you don't have to, you can leave it under default subject if you like. And one of the things that you'll find is when we start talking about different ways that we can search for these articles is one of the keywords that we can search off of, or one of the key fields we can search off of, is the subject field. More importantly though, again, because we're going to be publishing a lot of different articles, one of the easier ways to be able to go through and be able to search off of the articles as we look at it in a few minutes is by using the keywords. So I can put in any keyword so that when a user is looking for this, or when the user is typing the search, they can actually come up with this information. So I'm going to type in just a couple of keywords that we have there. And then you'll see that when it comes to language, I don't have the ability to change my language. Reason being is because we told it to create this off of our template. And our template, we designated what language we wanted this to be supported for. So you'll notice that language is automatically filled in by default. From here, you'll now see that we have the body of our article. And as we discussed previously when we talked about creating the template, I have my section headings, and then I actually have my body. And with the body text that I want to type in, you'll notice that if I had not clicked in there, and I was a little fast as far as clicking in there, but it actually provided instructions of what should reside within that body text. And it lets you know as far as when I'm in there and I'm editing because it shows the pencil. Now, the other thing to notice is that in going through and making changes to this is I cannot change the objectives or the actual sexual headings. So you'll notice that those right now are the headings that are going to be used for this article. But I can come in and I can now type in any of the objectives that I want to have. And you'll see that as I type in, it expands my sections for me. And not only that, but very similar to what we had within the article templates, we do have a formatting toolbar that we can use to be able to expand and format with the text that we are typing in. So you notice that we do have the ability to copy and paste. We can bold, italicize, underline. In this situation, if we actually want to have bulleted objectives, we can now have bulleted objectives and say, learn to be able to navigate within the Dynamics 365 product. And let's say we're going to do one more, and that might be understand the record types available within Dynamics 365. And you'll see that if we wanted to, as we continue to expand on, it will keep my bulleted formatting as necessary. You'll notice that if I go through, I can change it to being numbered formats, but it does change it for all of them. I also have the ability to increase or decrease my indentions. So if I want to, you'll notice as I go through this that it's very similar to standard formatting. So if I wanted to be able to go through, expand this and say accounts, contacts, cases, opportunities, and then I want to expand back out, you'll now see I can navigate around as I need to. The other thing that we can also do is, let's say I'm done with that, and I now want to move down into my detailed training steps. Within my detailed training steps, one of the things that you'll notice as we continue to scroll down is that I have a limited editing or article editor available to me. And as I continue to expand down, I lose sight of my actual toolbar that's available. But this is where a lot of times what you can do is you can type in the text that you want to use and then go back and do the necessary formatting as you continue to build your article itself. So we can type in whatever we want to, the following steps, or better yet, use the following steps to successfully log in to Dynamics 365. And let's say that I want to have that underlined, so I might highlight that, I might underline it, I might bold it, I might even change as far as the size of it, make that just a little bit bigger. And then from here, again, I might want to have the different numbering as necessary. And now put in the steps that I want to use to be able to successfully log into Dynamics 365 and build out the rest of my article. Okay. Once I have this information and I have everything prepared, again, there are certain things that you'll see that you can change, but really what you are limited to changing is just the body of text that you have within the different sections. So again, if I wanted to, I might highlight this. I might want to go through, change the color of it to be able to have different colors as necessary. Let's try that again, make it a little bit more obvious. We've talked about as far as bulleting, you have your bullets, your number formats. If I want to change the alignment, I can go through and make it left aligned versus right aligned, center aligned, and so on. So you'll see that you have very limited formatting functionalities using the article editor within Dynamics 365, but it's a very easy way that you can go through and create these articles from the existing templates. So if I'm now done with this article, one of the things that you'll see is that I don't have any of these other actions available within the command bar. Like many other record types, I cannot do any further actions on this article until I choose to save it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Save. Now, once I click on Save, you'll see that I have a couple of other options that are available to me. One of the options that I have is I can now move this forward in the life cycle. So I can now go through and I can tell it that I want to be able to submit this article. And then let's say that once it's submitted, it can be reviewed. And then once reviewed, it can be approved. And then once approved, it can be published. Or let's say that once it's reviewed, it's rejected because of lack of content or spelling or formatting issues. So from here, let's say I want to go ahead and I want to submit it. Now, again, depending on the appropriate security privileges that you have or permissions that you have, only certain users may be designated to be able to go through and either approve or reject that article. Let's go ahead and also see what happens when I go through and I actually create that. And I went through and I submitted it. You'll notice now it's no longer in my draft articles. If I go in, I can now go in and select unapproved articles. And in my unapproved articles, there it is available to me. So again, you might actually have a knowledge-based manager who is just responsible of reviewing an editor who just goes through and reviews it based on formatting, styles, and then you might have a subject matter expert that goes in and reviews it based on content. So either way, let's say if I want to go through and I'm one of those editors, I'm going to reopen that same knowledge-based article that I have. And let's say in reviewing this, I'm like, well, they didn't quite follow the formats that we wanted to. So instead of me going through and making the changes, this is where I can go through and I might want to add an article comment. So you'll notice that we actually have multiple sections on the actual article itself. Not only do I have the main article, but I also have the ability to have notes and I can have comments. So if I want to be able to go in and create a new comment, I can click on Add Article Comment. And then I can put whatever comments I want to. So I might put formatting the article is inconsistent with the standardized themes for publishing them. And let's say that once I select OK, we now see that I can actually have multiple comments so that they can be tracked on an article by article basis. So that if there's version changes or if there's functionality changes or there's content changes that we want to be able to make, we can actually use those to be able to track the historical comments against a single article. So let's say there are some changes that need to be made with this particular article. So this is again within the article itself. I can click on reject. And you'll notice anytime that I actually reject an article, it will automatically create an article comment for me. And it will basically say the submittal is rejected. And then I can say why it's rejected. So we might say, please revise and resubmit. I go in, I click OK. Once I click OK, again, just to kind of show you, if I go through and I refresh this, my unapproved articles, it's now removed out of my unapproved articles. And if I go back to my draft articles, you'll now see it sets it back to the draft mode because again, it was rejected upon submittal. So if I wanted to, I can go in and now the user can come in if they need to. They can make the appropriate changes. And then they can add the additional content. And you'll see that it does actually have our spell check available for us, which is very nice to have. And I can expand as necessary. So let's say that once we are done with this, I can then resubmit it. Once it's resubmitted, you'll see that that button has been grayed out and I now have the ability, or a knowledge-based editor or content reviewer has the ability to go through and either approve it or reject it. And as you'll see, just as we looked at before, under my draft articles, it has now removed it out of that view, and I can now go into my unapproved articles. So again, my knowledge manager or editor can go through, review it, and once they review it, they can go through and now approve it. So the question is, as far as once it's been approved, so again, I'm going to go through. You'll now see it takes it out of unapproved, and you'll now see that it is considered a published article. So again, the process of going through and doing this is that we can go through, we submit it, it can be reviewed, it can be revised, it can be rejected as necessary, and then resubmitted as many times as necessary until it is decided that that article is ready for publishing. You'll also see that for whatever reason, if I needed to go in and I needed to revise it, that I do have the ability to go back and unpublish it, make the necessary updates that I have within the record itself. And then once I go through and make the necessary changes, again, I can go through the whole lifecycle process of submitting it and approving it to be published as necessary. So you'll see as far as going through and creating articles within the Dynamics 365 environment is pretty straightforward. All right, so now that we've taken a look at how to be able to go in and create KB articles within the Microsoft Dynamics 365 service module, you'll notice that when we're in our service module or when we're within our articles themselves, that you actually have a prompter alerting you that there is new functionality that's available to be able to create knowledge-based articles within the Interactive Service Hub. To be able to go through and take a look at what that looks like, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go into the Interactive Service Hub and show you how you can create feature-rich new KB articles within the Interactive Service Hub. So go ahead and we're going to click on where it says Access it here. You'll see that that does launch a brand new tab. And then the first time you actually load it, it does take a few minutes for it to load, but then once it loads, you'll notice that it takes us into our knowledge-based articles. And very similar, you'll see that very much like we have as far as our module selector, we have the ability to click on our drop-down arrow next to services and take a look at some of this other functionality. Now, we're going to expand on this in a little bit more detail in another topic. But to be able to go through and see how we can create and manage our knowledge-based articles within the Interactive Service Hub, we're going to click on Knowledge-Based Articles. And then from here, you can see that we actually have quite a bit more of knowledge-based articles than what we even had as far as within the service module. And from here, you'll also see that I have a little bit more details immediately just by looking at my view. I can see the different statuses. And again, I can even go through and I can sort by my records based on my column headings. So if I want to go through, and you'll see I can click and drag, I can resize them. So if I need to be able to see more details about what I'm looking at, I have a lot more flexibility than the standard views that I have available within my service module. Now, not only do I have that, but we also notice that we have standard number of system views that are available. And we'll go through and we'll take a look at those in just a little bit. But not only do we actually have standard lists that are available for us, but we also have the ability of going through and creating new KB articles. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a new one, just so you can see what the differences are between creating one within the service module and creating one within our Interactive Service Hub. So you notice that once we go through, we actually are telling it to create a new article. One of the first things you'll see is right in the actual form where it talks about new article or new knowledge-based article, is I actually have separate tabs that I can go through. So I can look at my content. I can look at my summary information. So from here, I can see basic information such as status reason, owner, primary owner ID, the language, if I have any subjects, as far as when it was published, when there's expiration dates. And I can even go through and I can look at analytics. Now, we'll take a look at this in much more detail in a little bit. But right now, we're going to focus on our content. When we actually have this set up, you'll notice as far as going through and creating this, that we do have the ability to have major versions and minor versions. Again, we have the ability, if we wanted to be able to have a multilingual environment, we could go through and be able to choose different languages, very similar to what we had within the service module. But where we're going to start to see the differences is that, again, we have our title, keywords, and descriptions. You'll notice one of the things that happened is that when I did click on the new icon, I didn't have the ability to be able to create a new KB article from a template. So that's one of the differences that you'll see between the two different applications, is that when I'm going through and creating new KB articles from my Interactive Service Hub, I don't have the ability to go through, as of right now, to be able to go in and create a new article from an existing template. But we are going to go ahead. Let's say that we're going to do this one, and our title is going to be, say it's going to be how to perform maintenance for our 3D printers. So I want to go through and just document the steps necessary to be able to go through and manage the 3D printers that we currently sell. So I can give it a title. And then again, very similar to what we had building articles, is I can specify keywords so that anyone, if they want to be able to search for this, they can search off the keywords. So of course, I want to be able to have, let's say, maintenance. "3D printer." Let's also say scanner. And let's also, if we want to include certain of our product types, so say that if they're searching for our carbon fiber 3D printer, we could put that on there, or our FDM. All right. And then once we actually have our keyword specified, we can give a more thorough description of what type of information is contained within this article. So we might put on here this article outlines the procedures to So this article performs the procedures or outlines the procedures to calibrate and perform maintenance on 3D printers. Now, once I do that, I can click down in the context and the content field. And once I'm here, you'll see that I can basically go in and start creating my article as necessary. So I can type in, just like we're typing in Word. So let's say perform the following steps to perform maintenance on any of the 3D printers or any of the, say, following 3D printers. And then I want to be able to specify which ones. So again, from here, I could use my bullet points, very similar to what we saw as far as creating an article within the service module. And I might want to have my carbon fiber 3D printer, my 15-inch, my FDM filament 3D printer, my 10-inch, and let's also think that if it's my carbon fiber 3D consumables. And then I can go ahead and if I wanted to continue to have my additional details, and I can have my steps as necessary. And from here, I can build this as necessary. Now, one of the nice things that you'll see when it comes to creating a KB article within the Interactive Service Hub is that when you're looking at your actual content, you have an icon here with the ability to expand that content so I can now just focus on writing my article and not worry about the titles or any of my other details. So very much, again, like working within the Word or within a Word document, you can now go through and do some additional formatting. So one of the first things that you'll see is, again, this is where you'll start to see some of the differences between the two, is I have the ability to now have various styles. So from here, if I want to have certain styles set up and configured, I can go through and create styles. And I can then go in and even use predefined styles that are automatically set up within the environment. So once we have that, you'll also see that if I want to go through, I can change the font. So if I want to be able to have different font styles, I can easily come in here. Again, if we're looking at depending on if this is going to be internal versus external, you'll see I have a little bit more variety when it comes to working with my font styles. And not only as far as that, but again, similar to what we saw before, I can have different font sizes. But you'll notice now with the font sizes, I can fine tune them a little bit more. So I can go through and make the necessary adjustments and build my article as I want to. You'll notice that we also do have our standard bold, italicized, underlines, and not only that, but I can even have the ability to do strike throughs as necessary. And then again, some of the other functionalities that we may be familiar with from the other within the service module is I can even go through and have different colors. So I can go through and be able to have different colors, but this is also where you'll see what's a little bit different is not only can I have colors, but I can now have highlights and be able to highlight the text itself. Now, some of the other things you'll see, again, you can right align, you can center align, you can left align. As we talked about, you can actually have numbered lists. We can change those numbered lists to a bulleted list. We can expand them, we can contract them as necessary. But then the other thing that's really nice about this is as I continue to build this document, if there's existing information that's already out there, you'll notice that you have two other icons with the ability to paste information, whether it's from plain text or even from an existing Word document. So let's say I have an existing Word document out here that's already been created, and I now just want to be able to have it available within my Dynamics 365 environment. So from here, I can actually highlight my information, click on copy, go back to my interactive service hub, and then from here I can click on paste from Word. You'll notice it will get prompted saying, do you want to provide the allow access? We can confirm it. But now you'll see that the details and the information was brought over just as if it was in Word. And then from here, I can continue to now format my document as I need to. And I can make the appropriate changes. The other thing that you'll see that you can do is you'll notice that I even have the ability to pull in a table. So let's say that after my additional details, I might want to put on here, use the following configuration settings when recalibrating any 3D printer or scanner. And again, from here, we can make the necessary changes. Now, one of the things I can do is you'll see, I can even go through and add tables. So if I want to be able to add a table, it's going to ask me how many rows do I want, how many columns do I want. So let's say I just going to start out, we'll have 4 rows, and I want to be able to have 2 columns. If I want to be able to have a header, I can say, yes, I want a header on being my first row. I can choose as far as the border size that I want, as far as the lines around the table, what my alignment's going to be, even the width of the table itself, as well as the height, and then even as far as cell padding. So if I want to expand it as far as the spacing and padding, I can do so. And then I can even go in and set up a caption. So we might put this as being configuration values. So now once I go through and I have the details of what I want this table to look like, when I select OK, you'll now see that it brings in and pulls that table into my document for me. So now I can go through and I can put in field name, and then you'll see that as I continue to go through and type in here, it actually expands the columns sizes based on the text that I have in here. So then if I want to put on here, say value 1, and that should be, say, 100, value 2 is 200, and so on. And then you'll see as far as even the text that we have, we can go through and we can modify them as necessary. So to kind of give you an idea about some of the options that we have, we can go through and make configuration changes even when we add those tables. The other really nice functionality that you have is not only the ability to pull in tables and information from our Word documents, but even the ability to insert images. Now, you'll notice as far as with the Word document that I had actually had a nice logo on here. With that logo information, you'll notice if I do go through here and I try to copy that, and I go to my document, and then from here I tell it to paste from Word, that it doesn't paste that image because it's a little bit different. So one of the things that you'll see is that when I go through and I tell it that I do want to pull in an image, is that it is expecting the URL details of where that image is actually found. So on this particular one, I do actually have this on my document. So as long as I know where that URL is specified, I can actually include that. And then if I want to show alternative text or set as far as what my width and height is going to be, if I want to have borders, if I want to include horizontal or vertical spacings, the alignment and where I want it to be able to align, you'll see I can put all of the detailed information in there. And then of course, other detailed scripting information as necessary. And then the nice thing about it is it will also come in here and show me a preview. So if let's say, for example, I want to actually adjust the width a little bit, let's say to be only 650, you'll see it does it based on pixel sizes, and it will now go through and show me my actual preview. But then once I go through and I click OK, you'll now see that we actually have our images that can be inserted into our actual KB article. Now, a couple of the other nice things that you can also do with this is from here, if we want to include hyperlinks. So let's say that I want to be able to have a hyperlink in here. You'll notice I can even go through and I can set up links. So we can go through, specify as far as what I want that link to be. You'll even notice as far as if I want it to be a secured, I can change my protocol that I want to use as necessary. So once I go through and I select OK, I can now actually have that hyperlink. Some of the things that you can also do is, again, depending on the documents and how you're referencing the documents, is you have the ability to go through and create anchors. So as I'm going through and I'm setting this up, I want to be able to have additional details. I can come in here, select it, tell it that I want to create an anchor, and call this one details. So now, once I have that anchor created, anytime I want to be able to reference that elsewhere, I can now go through and be able to embed or reference that link as necessary. So you actually have quite a bit of different options that you want to be able to, that you can go through and you can create. You can even go through and create containers. So if I want to be able to have different containers available, I can embed media. So if I want to have a video that's going to be embedded into this or sounds embedded into this, I have the ability to embed those. To be able to show as far as what a container will look like, you'll notice I can go through, I can actually have special containers. And then when I select OK, I can now go through and now type in and we can now actually even have as far as a different container. So you'll notice that when it comes to the formatting, you have a lot more capabilities to be able to go through and create a full rich text edited KB article. Now, of course, once I'm done with this and I've done all the formatting I want to be able to have, I can then save my knowledge base article. Once I save this, you'll see that the options I have available from here is it automatically creates a new major version number for me. I also can see a timeline as to what has been related to the actual KB article. So even from here, as I look at this, I can review it to make sure that it's all consistent. Again, if I want to save it, you'll notice I have a save icon. So I can even see as far as what's going on regarding the timeline of this particular article. Now, we'll go through and we'll spend a little bit more time on managing the articles. But essentially, once we actually have it saved, again, very similar to other case or other record types within Microsoft Dynamics 365, you'll notice I now have new options that are available for me right from the actual article itself. For right now, though, you'll notice that when it comes to going through and being able to create more feature-rich articles, that using the Interactive Service Hub makes it a lot easier to be able to create some of those articles for you.
Now that we've learned how to create a knowledge base article, we must now publish it in order for it to be viewed, shared, and utilized. Since knowledge base articles can be shared internally and externally, organizations want to guarantee the quality of the article. This is why there are only specific security roles that have the ability to approve and publish articles. Now, the administrator always has full permissions, as they should, but Dynamics 365 also has the ability to assign certain security roles to certain users. After creating and reviewing the article, it's now ready to be published. Once published, the article is now auto-numbered. You also have the ability to create new major or minor versions of knowledge base articles. Why would you want to change a version of an article? Let's go through an example and find out. Let's say you have published an article about how to resync your Outlook with your Dynamics 365 environment. Since this is the first article, the version number would be 1.0. But after a recent update for the Outlook client, you need to go back in and edit or review the same article, and you end up making changes. Now this article should become version 1.1, so everybody knows it's the most recent version of the article. Once published, articles have the ability to embed or be embedded into public pages and customers. This is yet another reason why consistency is key when it comes to knowledge base articles. Along with the typical statuses when dealing with a knowledge base article, such as draft or active, there's also an expired status. When creating an article, in the advanced options, you have the ability to set an expiration date that will automatically display this article in an expired reference list. However, expired articles are not unpublished automatically, so the article still needs to be updated or deactivated after it's expired.
Okay, so now that we've actually created the article and we've saved it, as we are talking about that, a couple things that you can do is once you have the article created, so we actually have the chevron bar to be able to go and tell us what process or where we are within the article itself or in the article's life cycle of wanting to go through and move it from being a draft proposed to being reviewed or submitted to being reviewed and approved to being published. So very similar to some of the other business process bars that we have available is that I can click on the actual stage and I can see what's going to be necessary to move it to the next step. And again, it will identify what my required fields are. So you notice on this one, if I want to assign it to a subject, I can go through and I can assign it to a subject. So let's say I'm going to assign that to products. I can make sure that I actually have as far as my author, which is defaulted to whoever the user is in creating that. And then to mark it for review, this is where I can just go through and say, I want to mark it for complete and move it to the next stage. Now, once it moves to that next stage, you'll see that I now have the ability to go through and review it. So if I go and I tell it that I now want to approve this, let's say I've gone through, I've reviewed it, and I'm now ready to approve it. From here, you'll see that it notifies saying that it has been reviewed and it has been approved. Not only that, but if you look over on the timeline, you'll see that as it's going through, the first thing that happened is it showed that I created that article, but as soon as it went through and got approved, it then created a new transaction on my timeline. What's also nice about being able to use the functionality is within my timeline, you notice I have the ability to search for certain records. I can filter on certain records, but I can also create new records. So I can create a new email or a new task or even make an appointment. So if I wanted to be able to meet with the article's author to discuss it a little bit more in detail, I can go through and create various tasks and associate that to this specific article. The other thing that you'll also notice is we discussed already, or we pointed out, that you can actually have major versions as well as minor versions. So let's say that we go through this process, and again, I've reviewed it, and I'm now ready to move it to the next stage. So once I go through, you'll notice a couple of things that is even suggesting is that before we publish this particular article, I might want to actually go through and associate certain products to it, or even set an expiration date. Well, to be able to do that, again, you'll notice that we do have a command bar up at the top to be able to add it to queue or assign it to a user. But then I'll also see that when I click on more, this is where we have the ability to go in and create either major versions or minor versions. We can associate categories for them. We can translate these into other languages. And then, of course, we can approve and publish them directly from our command bar under the More Actions as well. You'll also see, though, and we'll take a look at all of these as we go through this, but one of the things that you'll also see that we have the ability of doing is I can now relate this to other articles, or I can even relate this to products. So if I want to be able to go and relate this to the products, I can now go through and associate this article to various products. And again, I can even go through, let's say I want to do another one. So that now, once I have that configured, I can now have that associated to various products. And then once I've done so, if I'm now ready to go through and say, yep, I've associated to the products, I can even go through and set up expiration dates. So if I want this article to automatically expire within a certain time period, say, for example, we are talking about products. And as we know, the product lifestyle a lot of times can be very quick. And so it may be that we have new products that we need to be able to go through and update. So we want to be able to have different expiration dates that are going to be set. So I can go through and automatically set that to being a year from now of what I want it to expire, and even give it a specific time as to when I want that to expire. And then basically, once I have that set, and I'm ready now to go through and complete this, this is where I can come up and I can now tell it that I want to be able to publish it. And once I've published it, again, you'll see that I actually have several different criterias that I can specify. I can tell it as far as when do I want to have it published. So from here, I can go through and I can push out the publish date saying I want to publish this starting on Monday, and again, specify a time. I can set up the expiration dates as we just talked about. And I can also, that if we have multiple languages, I can tell it to be published approved related translations along with this article. So I can publish it both in English, Spanish, and French all at the same time if we have different translations. So once I go through and I click on publish, you'll now see that, again, going through and looking at this, you have a new record that's written on the timeline. The status is not shown as published because it's shown as scheduled. And again, it's shown as scheduled because we chose to have it go through and have it configured as being scheduled for tomorrow. Once tomorrow comes around, it will go through and actually publish it. Now, a couple of the other things that you'll notice is that once I go through and I actually have it set to being published, and I'm going to go ahead and let's see, we change this. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to publish that now. Okay, once I have it set to publish, again, there's a couple things that you'll see that we can do. Let's say that time has gone on and I've now gone through and I realize I need to make some revisions to this. So as I look at this, I want to go in and be able to revise it. Well, to be able to revise it, this is where I can, again, use my more actions. I can revert it to draft. Once I revert it to draft, I can go through, I can update my changes. We might go through and let's say I'm going to add, let's say I have an anchor on here, but I forgot to go through and configure that. So let's say I go through here. I tell it that I want a new link. I want to anchor it to the link in the text. I can then give it my details names. And so now, you'll now see it will create an anchor for me. So once I go through and I make those changes, then again, one of the things I can do is I can say I want to create a minor version. And you'll notice it will actually tell you, as far as going through and doing this, it will create a version 1.1 with the content of the version you're currently on. Do you want to proceed? I select OK. And as soon as I go through and I select OK, bars. So you'll see as soon as I go through and I select OK, I now show that I have a minor version. Again, if I want to create a major version, I can go through, tell it to create a major version. And once I create the major version, you'll notice a couple things have happened. I now have a new major version number, but now my minor version number has been reset. And as I've gone through and performed all these actions, you will now see that, again, my timeline will get updated. Now, a couple of the things, just again, that we kind of introduced in a little bit ago when we talked about creating a new KB article, is take a look at these other tabs. So you'll notice if I click on my summary tab, take a look at this in more detail. So from here, as I go through, you'll notice one of the things I can do is if I want to, I can actually set this as being an internal document. So let's say that this is related to internal processes and procedures. I can actually mark this as being internal. You'll also see I can specify my language and then see who created it the last time it was modified on. If I go through and I choose to approve it, again, you'll see that my status reason will be updated. And then let's say I'm going to go through and I'm going to publish it. And once I go through and I actually publish it, again, you'll see that my status will change. But this is also where in my publish settings, if this is something that I want to be able to do at a future date, I could do it as a future date. And then as we talked about as well, this is also where if I want to set an expiration date on this, I have the ability of setting an expiration date. And then I can save my changes. I can update it. You'll notice it will say, do you want to save the updates? I can select OK. And it will now go through and it will actually update that. You'll also see that, again, if I have any major or minor versions, I have them out there and I can see the statuses of each one of those. But then more importantly, under that related information, not only can I see as far as the versions, but I can also go through and if we actually have different translations. So again, if I go through and I say I want to translate that, I can actually have different translations. If I've actually linked this to different categories, I can see my categories, as well as if I have this linked to other articles. So let's say that this might be associated to another article that I want to be able to link it to. So from here, I could have the ability to link it to any other articles. Say, for example, we want to link it to maintenance. So now I can have it linked to that article. And then also, I can even go through and link it to printers. So from here, as I'm working on this, if I want to be able to say which products I want to have this linked to, I can come in here and link it to any of the products that we have currently residing in our product catalog, as so. So it provides you a lot more information. The other thing that's also nice about it is you also have an analytics tab. And within those analytic tabs, anytime that someone has gone in and actually looked at it, I can see my views. If I have any cases that are using this article for resolution or just using or referencing this article, I can see the cases that are linked to it. I can even have feedback information. So if I want to go through and create different feedbacks, I can go in and actually have feedback and have different rating details for that article. So as far as going through and again managing it, the other nice thing about this is, again, as we mentioned, I might want to mark this internal. So let's say we go through and we take a look at some of the other ones. Say, for example, booking travel. Here's a great example of that. I want to make sure that that is marked internal. And when I mark that as internal, I can even say what versions do I want to have that marked internal as. So now when I go under summary and I look at my information, you'll see under my basic settings, it is now set to being for internal use only. If I want to, I can go through and I can assign this to various users, as well as the ability to add this to a queue. So it might even be something that, again, if we have a little bit more extensive review process for my KB articles, I can actually send them and have a queue out there called KB article review. And that my knowledge base managers go out to the actual queue to review them, revise them, distribute them as necessary before they are actually published. So you have different functionalities and actions that you can perform against these particular KB articles once they're created, including the ability to even email a link to it as necessary. So when it comes to working with the KB articles within the Interactive Service Hub, so you have a lot more flexibility of being able to go through, review them, and revise them and see the different statuses, as well as perform multiple actions on them other than just approving them and publishing them.
Most customer service organizations use a knowledge base to provide customer service representatives with the information they need to answer questions about a product or service. In the customer service module, the knowledge base provides a central repository for an organization's information stored as articles and organized by subject. The knowledge base provides the following benefits for storage of information. It's stored in a central location, so it's easily accessible for all users. Consistent formatting. A benefit to the knowledge base is a consistent presentation of important information. And then, of course, it's visible to everyone in the organization. It's searchable by full text or keywords in case you aren't entirely sure of what you may be looking for. When an article is published, it is indexed, visible to all members of an organization, and is returned in the search results. In addition to standard functionality available through the ribbon, knowledge base articles have a special Search Tools tab specifically designed for searching articles. Knowledge base articles can be accessed in the following ways: through the Articles tab, through the Advanced Find, or even directly through a case form. So even though users with specific permissions are allowed to publish knowledge base articles, any user is able to search for them. There are several ways to search for the information in the knowledge base. You can build queries to find articles, search for articles in a specific category, and even search for articles based upon specific templates. Whether the knowledge base is being searched from the service area or from a case record, the search experience is the same. One or more search criteria can be specified to find the article that's related to the information the user is seeking. You can also search for a knowledge base article through all of the following methods: full text search, which searches complete text of knowledge base articles based on value entered. And then there's also keyword search, which limits the search to the article keywords entered. Then we also have title search, which limits the search to only the titles of the articles. And then we also have article number, which also limits the search to the system-generated article number that's assigned when an article is created. And then lastly, we have subject browse, which basically allows you to browse articles through the subject tree instead of text fields.
All right, well, now that we've actually created some KB articles, and then we talked about the ability to search for them and the different ways that we can search for KB articles, I'm going to go back into Microsoft Dynamics 365. And again, just kind of taking a look at some of the different ways that we can search for them. We go under articles. Before we do anything, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to publish these other articles that we have out here. And one of the easiest ways, again, very similar to other record types that we have within the system. So if I want to manage multiple records at the same time, you'll see I can go and select those records. And then from here, I can go through, I can approve them. And then once they are approved, we'll make sure that they're under the published articles and we have them available for us. So within the articles, and we're going through and we're searching for that information, this is again where you'll see that what we have available within the search functionalities is going to be based on what views. So again, easily ways to be able to search for different articles is we can use our standard views that we have available. Also, as we mentioned, we have the ability of using our advanced find. And then the other way we also talked about is being able to do it within cases. Just to go through, and you'll notice as far as when we actually have these articles, you'll see that we do have our search bar available within our article view. And that by default, when you actually go through and you look at, before we even click in that search bar, that it tells us what the default ways of how it's going to search for any words that we type in our search bar. Now, as we mentioned, that there's multiple different ways that we can search for this information based on KB articles. And you'll notice next to that search bar, we have a drop-down arrow. We can click on Search Tools. So this is where we can go through and we can do a full text search. We can go through and we can actually do keyword search. And then, of course, we also have the ability to do title, article number, and even a subject browse. So as we talked about, that when we do the full text search, it will search the complete text of the knowledge base articles based on whatever we typed in. Whereas if we do it on keyword, it will limit it just to whatever we type in the keyword fields. Title will search just for the title, subject just for the subject field, or the actual article number. So from here, and then of course we could do it either on exact words or using like words. So to show you an example, if I wanted to search for, again, let's say we're looking for something, anything related to navigate. I type in navigate, I press my enter key. You'll now see that it goes in and it finds that value. If we go through and we take a look at some of these other ones. So let's say I open up my operating manuals. And within my operating manuals, you'll notice we don't have a lot of content there. Under my keywords, though, I do actually have manual and I have readers. So if I wanted to go through and just find anything where it actually has the word readers in it, I press my enter key. you should see that it will actually go through and be able to find that based on it. Let's try doing that off my keyword search. All right, so we actually have it off the keyword search. And again, let's see if we can do this off of Reader. So now you'll see that when I type in Reader, it now pulls up operating manuals. The reason being is because, again, we're searching off of keywords. And you'll also notice I told it to do it off of like words. So when I go into my title, you'll see under keywords, I have the manual and I have readers. And that's the only other details I actually have on that particular article. Now, I'll give you another example. Let's say we switch that back to full text search. And let's say that I'm looking for anything that has the word procedure in it. Press my enter key and you'll notice that I've got this article related to return authorization. Again, I go through, you'll notice not only do I actually have it as far as within my keywords, but then we also have it as far as within the document itself. So you have the ability as far as when you're doing the searches and looking for specific articles to be able to use the various search types. So if we actually had anything related to a subject, so we go through and we look at this, you'll notice under subject for products. Say if I go through here and again, I do a subject search and I tell it to search for product. Nope. Let's try selecting a subject from the list. You'll notice as soon as I go through and I actually change as far as the subject that I want to search for, immediately by changing that subject list, it will now go through and search anything that's within that particular subject. So that's one of the nice things about being able to have that subject tree is it makes searching a lot easier when you're looking for information. Now, the other thing also, and I'm going to switch this back to none. And we'll just get our default records back as we need to. So just kind of give you an idea about how you can use the searching, but the other way also, what's really nice is a lot of times we might want to be able to search for articles when we're relating to cases. Well, out of the box, when we actually have the full text search turned on, if I go into one of my cases, so if I go under services and then I choose cases and I want to look at one of my active cases. So let's say I actually have one for printer issues. I open up that case, and when I go through and I open the case itself, you'll notice that one of the options I have is my interaction pane. And we briefly discussed this when we talked about case management in another subject or in another topic. But one of the things that you'll now see is not only can I actually have my activities, but I can even have my KB records. And you'll notice that when I click on my KB records, it immediately takes whatever the case title is and will perform a search based on all public articles. And then from here, when I actually do that search based on the published articles, I can even go through, and if I want to be able to see what that article looks like, I can click on the link and be able to go through and look at more details about that article. Not only can I click on the link, but I can even then go through and pop it out so I can look at that article in much more details. And then once I'm done, I can just click on the X to close it and then go back. So right within our case records, again, by default, it does it for all published articles, but I can go through here and also do it either off of my draft articles, and you'll see that what I'm searching for is completely different, and it's all doing it based on what I'm looking for within the case title. But let's say that, again, I'm looking for something else. So you'll notice that I can go through and I can just type in any keywords that I want to be able to type in. So if I had more information about the actual printer itself, you'll notice that on the product, I know it's related to my carbon fiber 3D printer. So I can just type in carbon and it will now find that because it is one of the relevant keywords that we actually have when we're performing that search. So it makes it really nice that when we're working on cases, so to kind of show you an example of another case, let's say we close out of here. And I'm going to go to my product damage during shipment case. And again, I go to my KB articles. And you'll now see that very quickly I can find multiple search articles or KB articles based on keywords that were found within my case itself. And again, I can change that to be able to narrow it down more specifically. And you'll see as I narrow it down more specifically, I don't have the one anymore about my 3D printers. Oh, yes, I do. So not only can you actually be able to go in and do KB searches off of your actual articles, again, by going to search and then by going to articles, but then from here, we can also do it directly within our cases, simply by just going to our cases. And then once we're in our cases, we can go into our interactive wall. And within our interactive wall, you'll now see that it will try to search for articles that might be related to that particular case. And in a couple of lessons, we'll talk about how you can actually associate those articles with cases. But for right now, the focus is just easy ways that you can actually utilize searching for case records within various areas of the service module within Microsoft Dynamics 365.
In Microsoft Dynamics 365, we have the knowledge base to provide a place to store information pertaining to the service module. The knowledge base contains articles geared towards a specific topic or subject. And to help organize these articles, there's a subject tree. Once created and organized, we can associate these articles with cases. For example, let's say we have a customer who's having an issue with their Outlook client and submit a support case about it. As a customer representative, I know I've assisted other customers in the past dealing with the same issue. As I'm searching the knowledge base for articles about this issue, I'm able to view and read the article and to freshen up on how to resolve the case. After verifying it's the correct article, I can then attach it to a specific case. Following the example in the last lesson of attaching a knowledge base article to a case, we'll now explore how that helps resolve cases. There are a few reasons why in which we choose to attach a knowledge base article to a case. One reason to attach a knowledge base article to a case would make it to easily refer back to as necessary. If you attach an article to a case, you can easily guide the customer through the process of the steps that are required to resolve the issue. Sometimes it takes more than one time of assistance. So if that happens, you can easily and quickly refer back to the article directly from within the case. This way, you wouldn't have to spend time searching for it again until the case is resolved. Another reason would be to possibly utilize it for future cases. For example, we can refer back to the case after it's been resolved and attach it to another similar case as a similar case. The customer service representative that works on the new case can simply look at the other case, review the attached article, and then walk through the steps that helped resolve it and resolve the new case.
All right, so to go into the system and to see how we can use knowledge base articles to resolve cases and link those knowledge base articles to cases, we're going to go back to our cases. So again, under services, we're going to go to cases. And we'll take a look at our current cases that we have out there. So let's look at our My Active cases and what we have. All right, so let's say that we have this one, the 3D printer needs calibrating. Again, going through and looking at this, we just talked about that I can have the ability of going through and looking at my KB records, automatically will now search my KB article database to see if we can find one that might relate to what we're looking at. Now, again, you'll see that it will actually go through and it will help find one. Not only will it help me find one, but even from here, I can see existing details about this particular article right from my case. I can see the last time it was modified on, and even how many views that particular article has. What's also nice about this is you'll notice that I get a little snippet of the information that I want to be able to read about that particular article. But if I want to see more, I can actually click on the link and it will expand and allow me to see additional details. But again, it doesn't really give me a full view of that particular article. So the other option I have is I have the ability of clicking the pop out. And when I click on the pop out, I can now go through and I can view more details about this article. Now, the other thing we can also do is right from here, there are two icons that we actually have. One is I have the ability just to link this article to the current case. Because again, the advantage of going through and being able to link it is I can now quickly refer back to that article anytime when I'm within the case form. So if I go through and I click on the link it to this particular case, you'll now see that my icon changes. Not only does my icon change to show me that this article is currently linked, but also if I go in and I look at my case form, again, for my case form, I can use my tab selector and I can go to Associated Knowledge Base Articles. And from here, you'll now see that I can have my details. And again, if I want to be able to go through and look at that knowledge base, I can simply double click on it and I can now see as far as my information. And I can link back and look at the actual record itself. Now, let's say there may be a couple of them that I want to be able to link to it. Not only can I use the KB records directly from my interactive wall, but I could also simply just go down to my Associated Knowledge Base records. And if I want to be able to go through and be able to link another one, I could actually go through and see all the ones that are linked from here as well. So there might be another one that I want to have linked on here. See if there's any other ones related to printers. It doesn't look like we've got any other ones that we have out there. But essentially, again, the goal of this is to be able to go through and be able to see when we actually have those articles that are going to be linked. And then again, if I wanted to, and let's say that another customer service representative wanted to be able to see how this case was resolved, they can now go through and be able to look at those linked records that they have available to be able to find that associated knowledge base article, again, directly from my case record. So you'll see as far as being able to manage and review those KB articles, they're not just limited to using the article section. We can do them directly within the case record itself, or as we're going to take a look at in another module, we can even use the interactive service hub to go through and link those articles to different cases as necessary.
Microsoft Dynamics 365 knowledge base articles can be easily shared through email to help resolve customer issues. There are several options available when sending articles depending on how the article is being accessed. Whether a user is working within the knowledge base, a case record, email activity, or even the Outlook client, an article can be inserted to the body of the email and shared with contacts, leads, accounts, or any other user. So let's take a look at the different ways an article can be accessed. We can use the knowledge base. When a user works within the knowledge base, the user can send related knowledge base articles to the customer by opening the article in the HTML view and selecting the option to send the article in an email message. Then we also have the case record. When a customer service representative works with an existing case, they can send a related knowledge base article to the customer, provided the article is associated with that case record. We can also do it through an email from an activity or even through the Outlook client. So when the user is working in the customer service module or through the Outlook client, the user can send a related knowledge base article to the customer by inserting the article into the content of the email message. On top of sharing knowledge base articles internally, you also have the ability to share it externally, say to other customers. Again, this is yet another reason why consistent, proper formatting in the reviewing publishing process is so tedious, but yet very important. If we send inconsistent articles to customers, that will reflect on the organization. To email a knowledge-based article, simply attach the article link to an email.
All right, so let's go into the system and let's take a look at the different ways that you have the ability to be able to email KB articles from Microsoft Dynamics 365. So one of the ways that you can actually do it is you can do it directly from the article itself. So again, if I go up to Service, from Service, I go to Articles. Now, once I go and I select the article, to be able to go in and be able to look at the article itself in an HTML format, I can simply click on the article itself directly from the view. So again, I'm looking at my published articles, and I simply just marked the one that I want to view. From here, you'll notice that my command bar changes and the actions I have available, which again, is pretty consistent with the other record types that we have within Microsoft Dynamics 365. And one of the options is that when I mark that checkbox and I have the different actions available, I can click on View in HTML. And when I click on View in HTML, you'll see I can now look at basically how it's going to be sent. And from here, I can actually just click on the Email Article button. And that will allow me to email it directly within the article itself. Now, some of the other options that you have is, let's say that we're doing this via an email, and I just want to send this out as an email. So I go to My Services, and we're just going to do this within the web client for brevity's sake. And I want to create a new email. And let's say I'm just going to send this to another user that I'm aware that there's a case that he's working on, and I want to draw his attention to the article itself. So I can type in as far as whatever I want the subject to be. And then once I'm in the context of my email, again, you'll notice that you have several actions that you have available other than the formatting actions. One of the ones that you have is the ability to insert an email template. But the one right next to it is the ability to insert an article. So I can click on that, and then using our standard KB searching tools that we've discussed previously, if I now want to search for, let's say, navigate, and I can click on search, I can now find the article that I'm looking for, select it, and even from here, you'll notice that not only can I select it and add it to my email, but if I want to confirm to make sure it's the correct article, I can just click View Article right from the dialog box. I'm going to go ahead though, and I'm going to click on Add. You'll see once I click on Add, it now inserts that article as an email. And then from here, I can now send it out to my colleague to see if that will actually help him resolve the case that he's currently working on. And then of course, the other one, if we wanted to relate this and I wanted to be able to send this out to customers based on cases that we're working on for them, I can do it within the case record itself. So let's say I go into my 3D printers needs calibrating case. As we've discussed previously, one of the abilities that you have when it comes to our KB records is to not only go through and actually link the KB article to the record, but one of the other icons that was available in our interaction pane is the ability to go through and link and email the content. So when I click on this icon next to my KB article, you'll notice it does very much the same thing of what we just went through regarding emailing this to a colleague. The only thing that's different now, though, is the from and the to field are automatically populated. And so now I could put in here, have the steps in there, and then as necessary, I could go ahead and hit send, or in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just save and close this. So what's nice about this is not only does it save and close it, but again, when I go to my KB article, you'll see that it links it. And as a reminder, we can also go in and make sure it's linked by going to my tab selector, clicking on Associated Knowledge Records, confirming that it is linked to this case, But then also in my interactive wall under my activities, you'll now see that it will show the actual article being emailed out as well. So it documents it as an activity, not only as an activity, but also linking it to the KB articles. So again, variety of various ways that you can send KB articles, again, not only within the interactive or within the service module of Microsoft Dynamics 365, but we'll also review that when we go in and we talk about discussing in more detail the interactive service hub and how you have the same functionality to be able to email KB articles directly to or from a case record.
This module showed how to create templates and articles for the Microsoft Dynamics 365 Customer Service Module Knowledge Base, and also how to use knowledge base articles in common business scenarios. Some important topics to take away from this module are, by default, all users in the system can search the knowledge base, but only users such as system administrators or customer service managers can publish articles to the knowledge base. In addition, articles must be created based on an article template, and the same security restrictions imposed on publishing articles are also imposed on creation and maintenance of article templates. Articles also have characteristic work processes as they are created, starting with the status of draft and then moving to unapproved and then finally published. And then once published, articles are exposed through search. The knowledge-based search functions can be accessed directly from the workplace by any user from any or within any case form, for any user has access to that case form. So in this module, the objectives were to search for articles within the knowledge base and associate them with a case, to resolve cases quickly by using knowledge base articles, to create, manage, and maintain knowledge base article templates, to examine the process of creating, modifying, and publishing knowledge base articles, and finally, to develop how to properly format knowledge base articles through a template and the Engagement Hub.